All right, so let's talk about Module 3. Module 3 is all about aquatic biomes. So with terrestrial biomes, they are characterized by the amount of rainfall and the temperature that is throughout the year in that biome. With aquatic biomes, we have some different factors. So we have salinity level, how much salt is in the biome, what's the depth of the water, and then how quickly is the water flowing? Is it standing still like a lake or a pond? Or is there a tide like an ocean or even like an intertidal zone? Or a mangrove swamp, or that. So anyway, that's kind of what I mean by these different characteristics. So make sure you understand that. Then we have both freshwater aquatic biomes and we have marine aquatic biomes. Freshwater has low salinity, marine has high salinity. The examples of the aquatic biomes that you need to know are here. I'm not going to read those all to you, so you might want to pause the video at this point and kind of jot those down really quickly, or they are throughout the unit as well. And then some different things to know. Again, I'm just gonna point out again, I would always read as you're doing the reading, I would read through these figures, and I would also look at these vocab words. For the most part, you need to know all of these vocab words. However, as I'm looking at this, I don't think some of these words are important. The important words you need to know here is that an oligotrophic freshwater aquatic biome has low nutrients, and a eutrophic aquatic biome has high nutrients. Those are the words you need to really know. Now, could they on AP give you any of those words? They could, but some of these words, these two words you're probably expected to know. Some of these other words, they will probably give you a definition and then expect you to know something about that, okay? So just be aware of that. There are certain words that you need to know and certain words that you should be familiar with and be able to use. Okay, and then there are the other important concept that they brush on in this topic is that there are key wetland benefits. For some reason, College Board loves to talk about wetlands and they love to ask questions about wetlands. So make sure that you understand that the key wetland benefits that comes from this chapter, and actually this is true even later, we'll talk about wetlands again. One of their benefits is they reduce flooding, they filter out pollutants, but wetlands are a very productive biome, which means there's a lot of plant growth in that area. They're also the breeding grounds for many different species, and they provide tons of habitat. And you can see the various types of freshwater wetlands here. And so that's kind of what I wanted to point out there. Then we get into marine biomes over here. And so we talk more about marine biomes. An environmental situation that I wanted to make sure I addressed in this unit is something called coral bleaching. It's an issue that affects marine biomes. It occurs because we end up having lower levels of pH due to climate change. We put more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide then diffuses into the water, and when carbon dioxide mixes with water, it turns into something called carbonic acid, which lowers the pH of the water. So due to that lower pH level, which means more acidic, it becomes more acidic, and we end up with a higher temperature. It kills the algae that lives inside the cells of the coral plant, or the coral structure. And so that ends up creating something called coral bleaching, which you can see in this picture here. All of that coral turns white. If you've ever been to the Caribbean snorkeling, you've probably seen coral that looks like this, and it actually ends up killing the coral reef eventually. So that's an environmental situation that you need to understand. You also, when we get over here to the open ocean, you need to know the difference between a photic zone and an aphotic zone. So you can see here, photic zone is the area where sunlight reaches. So we have a lot of organisms that live there. Aphotic zone is an area where the sunlight does not reach, and so we end up with no life in that area. So those are important terms that you need to know. And I think that'll take us to the end of Module 3. Make sure that you're asking me any questions that you might have in class, and I'll see you next time for Module 4.